asked yourself this question, who I am? Several years ago, I was told I was not beautiful, that no one would ever love me, and that I was not good enough, that I lacked ambition. And I actually believed every word this person spoke over my life. I walked out every word. I lived it out until I was at breaking points where I fell into a trench. And I knew I felt so stuck. It was the most difficult moment, darkest moment of my life. I lost self. I did not know who I was. And I cried out to God and asked Him in the trench, who am I? What do you want me to do? And I want to be really honest here, right? I was real with Him. I swore, I threw tantrums, I shouted, I yelled. I was so real with Him. And this voice came and said, a very calm voice, I am a child of God. You are a child of God. And from that point, I moved from living from the perspective of someone else's image of me to the projection of God's image of me. Okay, one of the things I've done, the first thing I did was to get up and go in front of the mirror. It was really difficult because, go in the front of the mirror and start saying, I am a child of God. Initially, I'm not going to tell you, it didn't resonate to me. I was like, what am I doing? This doesn't make any sense. But eventually, after 6 months, I realized that something was seeping in me and dripping slowly into my spirit. And I began to understand what it is to be a child of God. I began to think differently, move differently from His image, not from my lens, not from the other person's lens, from His lens. One of the things that I have done was to have a journal, and I wrote in my journal every day. We say spend more time with God. What does it look like? I got up like 4 o'clock in the morning, depends on what time I got up. I would get my journal, get my coffee, and start writing in my journal. Writing prayers, songs, singing, listening to Sarah Jakes, listening to T. Jakes, listening to Juanita Bayam, Timmy Trim, all these preachers, and start writing. I began to start looking at myself differently and saw myself from the perspective of the Bible, what a woman is supposed to be like, what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to speak, and I asked God to speak through me, to change me from the inside out. And one of the things that I've realized, that I let go of all my anger, I forgive myself. And I meditate on the Word of God, and I seeked Him. I seeked Him, because at the end of the day, that if I'm your child, I'm His child. I need to go to Him and seek Him for advice, seek Him to know what is it that what do you want from me? What does it look like being your child, God? What does it look like, God? Tell me, what does it look like? How do I act? How do I behave? And so therefore I began losing friends and gaining friends. It's just so funny. He would just the old friends left and the new friends came in. And so that's one of the things I noticed. I didn't do it going looking. It just had to happen automatically. And I began taking care of myself, because one of the things that I realized, our body is the temple of the Lord, and we know that we hate that, but I began really taking care of Verna. And I think what happens that it is that he did a soul cleanse, I also did a physical cleanse, if you understand what I mean. And he cleansed me within and started taking care of me. And whatever was radiating outside, I'm oh my God, you're gorgeous, you're so nice, whatever. But I think it's what was happening inside of me that was showing out. I prayed about the church. I prayed about everything, every step I took. So I found the church. I found the church family. and the Rock Church in West Bridgeford, and I absolutely love them. But I was sustained, I was taken care of, but also I went to counseling. I know it sounds right. I found a Christian counselor, and I had to sit down and trash out my whole life story in order to receive healing in certain aspects of my life, to let go, learn how to let go and release things, because some things were said, some things were done that were even my fault, but to forgive and forget and continue. Because if you are going to journey with this aspect of being a child of God, you cannot carry the image of yourself or the image of someone else with you. You have to keep that image. You have to wipe that clean and just remain constantly in the image of Christ. One of the things I've come to realize is that I had to speak life. We hear this thing, speak life, but sometimes, I'm going to be honest here, I spoke life. And at first, I was like, what am I doing? You know? And even though sometimes I said, I am a child of God in front of the mirror, I didn't really believe it. And I just said it because, you know, speaking life, you know, we hear that in the biblical stance. It took me a little while, probably like 6 months after, to really understand, and it soaked into my spirit, where I believed I was a child of God. It's not an easy process. You know, I had to give up certain things. I had to let go of certain people, and I had to forgive myself as well, and forgive all those persons who have done me wrong, and find a home church. And one of the things that I have loved during this process is TV evangelism. Sarah Jakes, Juanita Bayam, Sydney Trim, you name it. Music, gospel music, and surround yourself with people who are like-minded. We hear that, but who probably have gone through what you have gone through and understand where you are. But one thing, I am thankful for the process, and I realize as a child of God, I'm thankful for the journey of certain aspects of my life, and I appreciate who I am. I hope this has reached so many people and we can relate to it. But no matter what was spoken over your life, no matter what label you carry, one thing will always remain constant, that you are a child of God. And that will never change if you're a prostitute or doctor or pastor. You will still be his child. He sees you as that.